could do it again.
I think so. Okay, it started now. I'm gonna have to crap this part out. Okay.
And we are live. Okay.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So on today's video, I have Janey Booze. That's her YouTube channel. I have been stalking Janey for a while now. Even when I was back in Jamaican doing my process to come here, I would go on her channel and just get some really good information from her. So I decided to hit her up and to do this interview with her because a lot of people in her comment section would be asking to share her story, a little bit more about where she comes from and her background. And so today we're about to do that. Janey is a sales and brand innovator. She offers coaching services to professional newcomers, and on her Instagram she's known as the dancing businesswoman. Yes, she can dance. So that is her, and without further ado, I'll have her introduce herself. Over to you, Janey.
I did not expect that introduction. Thank you so much, Dania. It's an honor, and I'm blushing right now. Like my cheeks are so full. I appreciate you. So just this is tough to do. I wonder how people just introduce themselves off the bat. So I'll try to do this in segments. I'll try to tell my story. So my name is Janey. Fun fact, that's actually short for Jane Rose. That's my full name. You just found that out.
Oh, nice.
I started my career after started in IT back in Nigeria. That's where I'm from. I moved to Canada in 2015 September to study advertising because I just love to break the rules. You think of tech, you want to be creative, right?
Exactly.
And so after doing 2 postgraduate certificates in Humber, so that was 2015 and 2016 in advertising, I thought, oh my Lord, what have I done? So colorful, like I miss seeing code. So I wanted to do something that actually sits at the intersection of tech and creativity and tech and business. And I thought, oh my Lord, that has to be innovation, that has to be entrepreneurship. And then I applied to do my master's. So the third time I was in school in Canada at Queen's University, Smith Business School for a master's in management, innovation, and entrepreneurship.
Last week when I was talking to you, you spoke so passionately about your mom and her entrepreneurial, mind, and you talked about, being an entrepreneur, and now you've actually turned your passion into a business by being a professional coach. So could you tell me more about how you grew up with your mom and, seeing her as a role model for, being a businesswoman, basically?
Oh my, so my mother is just an older version of me. We have incredible energy. We like to see things and see opportunity and not challenges. So I think I definitely got that from her. Growing up, my mom always says, "Oh, Janey, you talk too much." But I also love to speak and help people or speak out for people who do not have or who would not use their voice. So I was always getting in trouble in school, even when it did not concern me. I literally go try to save people who were in punishment because I just thought.
So you were like the advocate back then. Exactly. In your school days.
But AKA troublemaker because it literally did not concern me most of the time. So I used to get in trouble. I joke around and say I was that brilliant kid in school who would be on assembly one day getting an award for something, and the next day will be punished in front of everyone. So you never know what I was getting on the stage for assembly. But
like you were unpredictable.
I still am, so that part hasn't changed. But yeah, like my mom always had a full-time job. My dad wasn't in the military, so my mom had to raise us for most of her life without my dad being around. Right. So having just one source of income in Nigeria at the time wasn't quite suitable for my mom. She grew up again with an entrepreneurial mom. So my mom is the type of person that would buy things and would not want it to sit with her if somebody else needs it. And she'll just think, oh my God, I'm gonna sell it. So I grew up always going to the market with my mom. She was a caterer. She owned a shop. She would sell cars. So my mom did a lot of things. There was never a time my mom wasn't selling at least 3 services. Right now, as we speak, she works for like a CRA back in Nigeria. She has an event planning company. She has a shop and she has a not-for-profit. Right? So I grew up with someone who was always busy doing something for people and making money at it. So that was my inspiration, is to knowing that I cannot fight this entrepreneurial spirit anymore. It was time to embrace it.
That's just amazing. I like to hear stories like that because it humbles you, like listening to other people's grow up story, a glow up story. It really humbles you. I really appreciate you sharing. And so when you came here, you mentioned also that you started your own business.
Yep.
Could you elaborate more on that?
Okay, so when I moved to Canada in 2015, I was lucky enough to have a dad who was able to pay for at least my first 2 postgraduate certificates to some extent, but all he could pay for was tuition, and I could not blame the man. He has 3 other kids, so I needed to find a way to help with rent, with leaving. So one thing I'm quite good at, and I've been blessed with by my mom and my dad, is being able to use my hands. So I started to make hair. I used to make wigs and weaves, and I put up an ad on Kijiji. I'll print out ads and put on the bus stop all the way from Etobicoke North to Etobicoke South, which was interesting. It's about,
that's amazing.
It's probably about a 10-kilometer stretch or even more. So I started doing that, getting clients, making hair, making weave. And then I realized it wasn't sustainable after a while when I was getting towards the end of school. But doing that actually helped me with groceries, with rent to some extent. And from that business, I realized a lot of women who sit on my chair will complain about having scalp issues, skin issues, and like pain from relaxers and all of that. And I went again and started researching, and then that birthed another company, which is called I made this product called Shea Souffle, where I mix natural butters and oils and sell to women who would come sit in my chair. So I always felt like one business idea led to another.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. And for prospective students who are coming here, you may not know where your first dollar is going to come from to pay your tuition.
Yes.
So this is an idea for you. You can start a business. If you're good at something, don't sit with it. Don't sit with the talent to pay your tuition. You have to buy groceries, so you can do these little things to have an income. So this is an amazing story. And
thank you.
So in terms of transitioning, how did you keep motivated, to just keep going,
Thank you for that question, because I'm thinking right now, one thing I have now noticed that I didn't really realize is Nigerians are a set of people who have this grit and tenacity like nobody else before. And I never really understood it. I thought that was a fallacy, but I think growing in an economy like Nigeria, where you actually learn to hustle really early, kind of helped me with that transition, and coming from a military background too, there was no time to slack. If you get on a call, my family is very embracing, will listen to you if you have a downtime, but you're not leaving that call without next steps. So you can call to my mom, and cry on the phone and weep, and then she goes, so what are you gonna do now? Right? So it forces you to think about,
what's your next step? What are you gonna do?
Yeah, okay, we're good. You've put all the pain out, now what are we gonna do? But nonetheless, I was blessed to have my older brother was in Canada when I moved, so I was blessed to have someone who had walked that path to help me, to show me the ropes for the early days. So that's one lesson I couldn't have, just owed to grit or tenacity or anything like that. The transition was tough. No one tells you about culture shock. It's really different again for different people depending on the culture you have. And I got to school for the first time 2 days after I had landed from a 20-something plus hour flight. I had locks in my hair. I was the only black girl in my class.
That was a huge culture shock for you.
I came from a country where we're all the same. Most of us all are black kids, and if there's anything, it's probably tribal issues, but at least you get to prove yourself, right? But I just got categorized on the first day without even realizing it, because we're asked to form groups in class and no one was going to form a group with me, and I didn't understand why until later on, where it was I feel stereotyped the way I used to. But when I ended up later on in the term challenging that stereotype, people could not believe it. There was a lot of times people were like, oh, for a black girl your English is good, and I'm like, what? Oh, you're from Africa? How is Africa? So for me, all of that was interesting, because I'm very educated, I'm quite woke, I'm well researched, but that was not the stereotype that we're used to on this side of the world, and for me that was new too to deal with.
Right. As you're talking about a stereotype, have you experienced racism outright?
I think racism outright in 2020 is kind of like a fallacy in Canada.
Yeah.
Because Canadians, unlike the Americans, are very subtle. Canadians are not as rash as Americans, and in quote, Canadians are polite.
Yes.
So you have to be aware, especially if you're not the person going through the experience to notice racism here.
Right.
So it's very few times where I'll say the closest thing to outright racism has happened to me, but a lot of which happened when I was in Kingston, Ontario. So Toronto is quite diverse. I was living the life in Toronto. I'm like, yes, the city. There's people from 16 countries in like 1 week. I'm learning every language, and there's black people on the street, right?
Yeah.
Until I went to my master's in Kingston, Ontario, Queens, and it felt like I was dumped in an experiment. People would stop and stare on the street. Random strangers would walk by and touch my hair.
Just touch your hair? What year was this?
Yeah, and they kind of just, this was 2017 or 2018 actually. 17, 18. So end of 2017 into 2018, I remember. Yeah, so it was interesting, and they'll act like they brushed up on you. I'll be in the grocery store, someone will literally like keep staring, and you know that thing when you look at someone like, why are you looking at me? And you think they'll take their gaze away, but they don't. They're looking at you down. Yeah, it was just like really subtle things, and especially in an academic environment when your professor is acting strange to you, you know, sometimes marking you down in grades and you cannot explain why. I mean, it's never really outright. You have to be like really conscious to notice things that is not happening to everyone else but you, or everyone else except the people who look like you. So that's the difference kind of with like Canadian racism. And
I definitely agree.
Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on the bell to be notified when I post a new video.
As I mentioned earlier, I was in Jamaica, you know, doing my process and everything. I would watch your videos and I would get a lot of really good nuggets from you. What kept you motivated so much so that you actually started a business out of it?
Oh, what kept me motivated? Okay, to be honest, it's been tough having a YouTube channel because my channel actually started from growing up. My friends and family have always been like, oh my god, you should be on TV, you have such a good personality, you talk a lot, use it. I had the channel in my head, believe it or not, for years and years before I actually had it come to life. And when I first started my channel, which is now Janey, the name of the channel was For the Life of Me. And that was a double entendre to say, for the life of me, Janey, get on with this channel already. But it was also like my life in 4D now, like walking through the cities of Toronto. And this is my new reality as an immigrant, as a newcomer. But my motivation was every day spending lunchtime with friends from around the world who had navigated this space. I'm like, oh my god, I wish I knew that. Maybe finding out in second semester that there was a loan or a scholarship or some grant you could have applied to, or you were entitled to certain benefits that no one tells you when you land in the airport. And I just thought, the more I can share about these things, the less time it'll take for the next person coming in, and then we can actually build a society of people who are, you know, impacted by the trails I have taken. So I think that was what kept me motivated, because I was living my story and the story of my new friends here in Canada.
Right. And as you also mentioned about, you know, building a community, you are now working for a startup company.
Yes.
And we talked briefly about that. Could you talk more about that for our audience here today?
Oh, BPTN. So the company I work for now is called Black Professionals in Tech Network. And so what we do pretty much is make sure, or as much as we possibly can, make sure that companies, startups, corporate organizations are hiring more Black professionals. And what we do is also make sure that people who are Black professionals in tech are also getting promoted and getting recognized for their leadership capabilities. Because as we know, tech is one of the fastest growing industries in the world, especially here in Canada. But tech is not representative of the communities that it serves. Right. The Black population is underrepresented in tech, and if you think about it now, even with this whole pandemic that we're going through, it's affecting a certain population more than it is others, because we're not represented in the spaces that we should be in. And I'll say my journey with racism in Kingston, as well as being a Black professional, showing up to rooms and people always act surprised by something smart I say, or something researched I say.
Yeah, and like they're not expecting you to know those things.
And I know for sure that there's a lot more of people who are like me, who are probably going through this path. But we decided as a company to bring all these people together to network, because people get paid today to refer a friend to work. Wouldn't it be great if we all could refer each other and climb together, so that the organizations, leaderships, the generations of tomorrow, their leadership looks like us. So that's pretty much the mandate of the company, and that's why I feel so blessed to work, to have that as my 9 to 5.
And tell me more about the job, because also, like, when we spoke last week, you know, we were getting to know each other. You said you've had a lot of jobs here. Like, what are some of the jobs you've had, or the most fun jobs, or like, just tell us a little bit about the jobs you've had over the past years or so.
It's funny because I think as a healing process, I've tried to forget some of it. I think I'm just like, I never want to do that again. I don't want to remember it. So now it's hard to bring it back up. But I'd say one thing I purposefully did when I was coming to Canada, and I advise a lot of students, is I looked for programs that have co-op or internships within them, because that kind of gets your foot in the door. You can speak to Canadian experience, even though it's 2 weeks as an internship, right? So I did a lot of those as some side jobs. But I'll say the one that was like most fun and most interesting, maybe not most interesting, but maybe not most fun, was I worked for a local magazine company somewhere in the south of Etobicoke, and I built like the digital strategy for it, but I also had to sell ads on this magazine for local businesses. So it'll be going from shop to shop, asking for their stories as local small businesses, interviewing them, getting the script, but also creating the behind the scenes, writing the article, and just, you know, talking to everyday people and seeing it on print. For a lot of people, seeing it on print, they thought it was glamorous work. Oh my God, Janey, you're working for a magazine. But like, no, I'm having to like walk on the streets, cover festivals, and like the sun is hot, and like get a lot of doors slammed in your face. Like, what are you doing here? Get out. So. Yeah, that was quite interesting. I mean, it was interesting. It was a sales, marketing, editorial content job. It was one of those internships where you're the jack of all trades, but you just have a title slapped to it, but you do a whole lot behind the scenes. So I was doing the sales, I was doing the marketing, I was doing some of the editorial content. So
let's talk about your PR process.
Okay.
I remember watching one of your videos. You got it in 6 weeks. You got your PR in 6 weeks.
Yes.
Good. That's good. Good. That's go ahead.
I'm gonna be honest. Honestly, that was Jesus, y'all. I'm telling you, when God shows up, you have to acknowledge Him. To be honest, so I'm not even gonna stay here and claim the praise, the glory for it. But I think it was an accumulation of factors. I am, till today, my family's travel agent, so I do all our visa applications and everything. So having that experience and how to fill forms, how to like give an information overload when you're applying for visas and permanent residency is it's an understatement. So I've always done that. I always kept a record of what I would say I'm applying for my study permit, which I did in 2015. I have that saved on my computer, so everything is easy to dump. So I was like, even though sometimes I was even like 2 months to submit documents, I was submitting it in 3 weeks. Right, so that way they're processing things faster than they should. I did research on what was required even before I started to apply. So I started gathering my documents before I even applied. Like, I had to do a police certificate before I had gotten my medicals or anything done. I had that ready to go. My transcripts were waiting. So I pretty much did the research on time. It helped also that I studied in Canada, to be honest, because then I could apply through the Canadian experience class. And I've done a lot of videos where I mention, and I'm going to do more, that coming to Canada as a permanent resident, or if you're coming to Canada with the intention of being a permanent resident, it's always best to come as a student, because you do a student situation, you work, and then you get a PR faster, because then you'll kind of like process faster. Case in point, we're in the pandemic right now, and there was a draw that happened a couple days or weeks ago. It was only those who had Canadian experience, which is what would happen if you come as a student and you work in Canada, right? So there's always priority. So I think just being part of that priority, studying here, all the jobs I have done in Canada, my IELTS scores were quite good. And my ability to explain anything that might raise an eyebrow through a letter, all of those factors. And of course, the grace of Jesus. That's how I got my PR in 6 weeks. I have a video about where I showed the process, all the forms I filled, like detailed. So we could link that in that video for anyone who's looking to get started.
And I'll also link your YouTube channel here, so you guys can just go on over to her channel. She posts a lot of good information, guys. Also, what advice would you have for prospective students coming to Canada
or wanting to come to Canada? Is you have to think backwards. And this is what I mean by that. I know that right now you're caught up in, oh, I want to come to school in Canada, I want to come do this and that, and like this is my undergrad, so this is what I'm going to do next. Think about what the careers of the future look like. That's what I'm trying to say. So once you're done with school and now you're looking for a job, what kind of job do you want to be doing? Think about that hard, because that would influence what you want to study. It's not always a linear path. Like, think about it. I graduated with an IT and then I ended up studying advertising. A lot of agents will tell you that is a no-no. Like, oh my gosh, like, you have to be in the same career path that you studied your undergrad in. That is not true. Just as long as you can explain to the government and the school why you're making that switch, where you see your career going, how the skills you have in your undergrad, for instance, help that degree and will help your career go and your country, because you have to show proof that you want to return, even though we know you're not trying to return.
Right.
Wink, wink. So
they always ask you that. Like, even though you know in the back of your head you have other intentions, you still have to prove.
Exactly. So it's like, yeah, no, I'm not. I know for sure. So think backwards. Say, think about your career, what you want to be doing after school, and again, a way to do that is think about your passions too. Like, I don't want you to say, no, I want to be a software developer, because that's what's in vogue if you absolutely hate code, right? So think about your passions, because that's one thing you might not get tired of anytime soon.
And what kind of nuggets you have for students who wants to transition here seamlessly? Yep,
I'd say find a community, and not one.
Yeah.
2 important communities. And it's not the community of the people whose country you just came from. So for instance, I'm Nigerian. It doesn't make any sense for me as much to come land and be looking for Nigerians immediately. You could have that community of Nigerians that help you with resources, but I'd say to actually transition into the system faster is a community of Canadians, and that would help you in your classmates. Like, so they're gonna laugh at your accent sometimes in the first week. It's totally fine. Laugh back. Say they sound snurdy or whatever. It's totally. But get close to the Canadians, because they would show you a lot of ropes. They will teach you lingo. They will teach you things like loonies, toonies, what a toque is, what Canadian festivals are, what the holidays are. Because you don't want to be that kid who is like in school and everybody's on spring break and you didn't know it was happening. It happened to me. I couldn't even do anything fun. I was so sad. Right? So have Canadian friends, but also have a group of other international students as well. Because that's where you can vent. That's where you can say, hey, this is not working for me. What's working for you? And you can learn a lot about their cultures as well. And another bit really quickly is, I was guilty of this. No question is dumb. I promise you, because I came from a country where you better think hard before you ask your question. Right? So there's a whole lot of filters I'm placing in my head before I open my mouth in class. Like, for instance, where I'm from, you cannot ask a professor where exams are going to become based out of. Right? So when a professor tells you your exam's happening next week, you pack your stuff, you get out of class. That's normal. But here in Canada, I found my classmates saying, so excuse me, where are you going to ask that from? I was like, huh? You can do that? So I'm telling you right now, no question is dumb. Ask it all.
Exactly. And sorry, we just want to go back to when you were in Nigeria and you were doing your process. Did you go through an agent, or did you do the process all by yourself?
DIY, baby. That's one thing I'm proud of. So I gave myself a year, knowing fully well that it takes international students a long time to get their application processed. Another tip, and I shared this in this student video, check it out on my channel, where I actually break down how to come as a student, and then another video on how to apply for your study permit. But another important tip for you to make sure is, don't get too rigid on, I need to do petrochemical engineering in University of Waterloo, because that would not work. You have to spread your basket, you spread your net, be like, one in Ontario, one in Alberta, one in Vancouver, 2 universities, 3 colleges.
Spread it out.
Especially if you really want to leave your country at a certain time, spread your net thing. But then don't do something too far from your degree, because then you're gonna have to write a whole lot of explanation as to why you're trying to study finance after you were an engineer, right? So so I DIY'd. I was able to link between IT and digital marketing or advertising and explain why I wanted to do that. But another thing I don't really share, and I have finally gotten comfortable with sharing, is that I got, I think 7 or 10 no's? So I think it was 7 no's from universities in my first year.
Oh, really? And so you applied to those schools and you got denied?
Yes. So I applied. It was Waterloo, it was Laurier, it was a bunch of University of Toronto. There's a couple schools I applied to for, if I remember correctly, it was it a master's in communications. And I didn't know at the time that I could even ask for why I got a no, right? So I just took my L.
Oh, you could have asked.
I didn't know at the time. I literally just took my L. So it's like, I applied to the school, I sent this amazing letter, explain who the awesome person Janey is, be like, you gotta accept me as an international student. I thought my letter was boom. And I kept getting, sorry, how do they say it again? After consideration, we regret to inform you that I'm like, really? Y'all gonna miss out on this? But it was after my first, and thank God, like I applied to colleges, so Humber at the time, and I got accepted from colleges easy. But it was after that first year, the second year where I was applying to my master's in Queen's University, and I was talking to international student counselors in Humber, that I found out that once a school says no, call them and ask them what was the decision that was made. I had no clue. You see, again,
so you hear that, guys? If you get a no from schools, find out why, so you can do better when you're applying for another school.
Exactly. I lost $1,000+ applying, but turns out I have a tech degree, and communications in most of the universities, you need a Bachelor of Arts to do a master's in communications. So it wasn't because I wasn't smart enough, because for me, I won't lie, it smashed my ego. I had never gotten no from an academic institution.
So like that made you feel like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? I thought I was like
me real good. It's like, shut up, you think you're smart, right? So I swear to you, like, ask questions. That was my learning from that.
Yes, exactly. You know what, Janey? I'm so glad that I reached out to you. And you know, guys, just check out her channel. She has a lot of valuable information. And I'm so glad that you decided to do this with me, Janey. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your valuable information.
Thank you so much.
And I really hope that you guys, I really hope that you guys got a little feel of, you know, who Janey is, the dancing businesswoman. I hope you guys get a little bit more insight into her background and who she is personally. She's an amazing woman, and I thank you so much, Janey. And
thank you so much. You know what? Actually, something I forgot, and I'm so sorry I did, because when you asked me the question about what motivated me to keep going on, was this, to be honest. It was people like you, Janey. Like, I was, maybe when I was at 500 subscribers with 10 views, and this video had taken me weeks to create and edit because I was enjoying that process, I get an email from someone saying how they have just arrived Canada, or they have just successfully gotten their study permit because of my videos, or at least they know what to do now before they came. And I'm like, holy smokes, actual people are watching this thing. Thank you so much for having me on your channel.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming. Okay guys, so that's it for another video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I really hope that it was insightful for you. And if you want to check out her channel, again, I'll link it down below. Thank you once again for tuning in. I truly appreciate you guys. And I'll see you next time on my next video. Bye everybody.